Okay, guys, hope you're staying warm. Record colds all around, even snow in Houston coming this week. Perfect time to fire up your system, or maybe watch my videos. And to that end, I want to give you something fun to listen to, music clips from the YG tour I did in their amazing listening room. Stay tuned. Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm so far behind in content, it's almost which do I choose to release to you guys. So I figured now that it's a cold week, I'll give you some music clips from an amazing music room. It's the reference room at YG Acoustics, which I've been sharing with you, the tour I did at YG, as well as some other facilities and dealers. I'm going to start giving you some music clips to kind of counteract some of the tech talk and the fancy eye candy. And one thing I wanted to share with you though, the formula I'm doing for my normal visits, I normally do one of these 1-minute short splash kind of 6-second flashy stuff to give you a 1-minute tease of these videos or facilities that I visit. Then I do maybe a 3-minute short where I just walk through and talk through what I saw to give you that if you could spend at least 3 minutes. And then what I do in these longer form videos is give you stuff like music clips, walk around with the owner, do interviews and stuff like that. So that's all coming down the pipe to different degrees with YG, TMR, and I've already shared with you stuff from that amazing dealer I visited in Vegas, some music clips still to come on that. So getting that housekeeping out of the way. This video is going to have actually 3 parts, and I'll put it in chapters. It's going to have the part that goes through the room itself, the reference room. Duncan, their sales guy, is going to share with you all the details that went behind building out the room, their philosophy, and the associated gear, which I think is very important. Then I'm going to give you music clips. And I told him when he asked me what to play, I said, you share with me anything you found cool that sounds good, of course, but new music, not the stuff that everybody else plays. So you can't get a whole lot of appreciation from a cell phone camera or YouTube. This way, at least, you're going to get some cool new music you can play on your system while it's cold this week and see how it sounds on your system. But also, at the end, I'm going to give you an interview I did strictly with Duncan to get an appreciation from him and his background. Because unlike a lot of salespeople in this hobby, he's not just a marketing suit with a business background in marketing. He's got he worked at TMR. He was doing testing there. He knows the technical stuff. He does do-it-yourself. He's even done some mastering stuff. This is the kind of acumen I love to see people hiring in their sales because it makes it so much better when they're selling. They understand things. And so I wanted to give you a whole dose of Duncan in this sandwiched around the music clips because he's the one that's going to lead us around the tour. But on top of that, I will have separately an interview with Matthew, the CEO of YG, and you're going to be very impressed because one of the great takeaways of many I had is, yeah, they're the Bugatti of speaker designers. They're spending a lot of everything matters, including measurements. Isn't that kind of funny that the hobby is always polarizing of everything matters except measurements sometimes? You know, it's like so crazy. What they've done, and I think this will be a very good for macro purpose of the industry in general, is yeah, they understand that people want to emotionally connect to the music and all the emotional things that once it gets into our ear, into our brain, make a difference for each person. But they've been able to measure a lot of these things and see what they consistently translate to that. And that's what they put into their speakers. You're going to hear most of that from Matthew when I have that interview. But it carries on the philosophy of their entire thing. From their listening room, you're going to see measuring, studying, understanding what brings that entire experience. And I got to say, I was very impressed with the YG. So hopefully you enjoy these clips, but plenty more to come. See you back here soon. All right, so one of the most impressive things of the many impressive things at YG is their listening room. So let's get a little tour of that and just look at this.
We'll start here. There's obviously some stuff going on here.
Right.
Some filling in the drywall there. We've got 2 layers of as thick drywall as we can get separated by green glue. So we've got, you know, that self-damping inside it, but also we've got staggered studs, and it's completely filled with acoustic filling. So we walk into this room. Our previous listening room at YG was large, very large. It was impressive. It was actually the machining unit that we're going to go into, the one with the white CNCs. What we wanted was something that feels relatable. Now I'll say 12.5-foot ceilings are not always relatable for everybody, but we could determine what we want in here. So we're really looking at ratios of this room that are beneficial for audio. And this ceiling height worked out for us.
And it's not even perfectly square. It's kind of curved here.
Very important. If you look at each angle, there's only 1 or 2 actual 90-degree angles in here.
Yeah.
Even though it feels like a normal room, what you're doing is a couple of principles. It is obviously without the 90 degrees everywhere, you don't get these perfect destructive and constructive wave interactions. But also you notice that the ceiling is a little shorter on this side and it's a little taller in the back.
Right.
So that's like a concert hall, right?
Yep, exactly.
Where you have a little bit of a compression zone where the speakers are. These are really fundamentals that everybody should follow with their listening room if they can, if they have a dedicated space they can build from scratch. Not everybody can, though. Something that most people deal with at their home is, what is my floor made out of? We could have gone further. There's a company actually in Lyons that does suspended floors. And that's not exactly a necessary thing here. What we wanted in YG was not the most dead room. We want an actual just natural feel. So not overly live, not overly dead, quite diffuse, because we don't want these big specular reflections. A specular reflection means basically all frequencies coming back. So it's like from a flat surface. So there's a bunch of diffusion that you'll see, but we've gone pretty light with the absorption. In fact, most of the absorption is in the ceiling. If you take a look at the ceiling, you've got lots of diffusion with these slats, but then above it is 6 inches of felt.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, we really like felt because it's got millions of fibers and it really does the thing. I think open cell foam is used way too much from people that don't understand exactly the science of it. It can be useful in trapping some waves that correlate to the openings in the foam. As a whole, it can break up like a corner, like we use actually back there with those white things. I'm kind of in the process of trying to, we'll replace those with something that looks a little better. But
and that's pretty significant. Tom is 6'8", and he's standing back there. So,
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. It goes way up because we want to cover that corner so that we can control those reflections. One of the big goals in here was to A, make a great listening room, but also B, because now our R&D is done in the UK, but our machining R&D is done here, but we want the capability of doing a little bit of R&D when our CEO is here. He's here half the time he's in Cambridge. So one of this room's goals was to kind of squash some of these resonances by preventing some of these wave interactions through diffusion. Because if we can make the resonances less intense, kind of what would we be doing? Lowering the Q of the resonances. Then we can take some spot like mic shots of things that we can reasonably trust. At the factory, we might see someone testing a speaker or drivers. We do a lot of impedance sweeping and close miking of these measurements, but sometimes you want to take a measurement at a meter. And so having a room that is okay for doing that. It's not the best. It's not an anechoic chamber. It's not trying to be, but it's a dual use room, right? So, but for listening, most of what you see is diffusion, and we're trying to keep the energy in here just sort of.
People are going to ask about this, but this company, guys, is out of business. It's an Italy-based company. You've seen it in other videos I've done in Italy, but that's no longer around. Sorry, can't give you any information on that. But
those are really good.
Yeah, they're good. It's very bespoke treatments here that are very impressive.
Yeah.
And it's about using it properly. That's the key.
It is. We're trying to take everything that we do. We study, we take knowledge from the past. We're not reinventing anything. We're of the camp that everything matters at this level of resolution and at the performance level that we're trying to accomplish. To the point where I was explaining to you, in a system with this type of resolution, you would not put a rack in between the speakers. That's a convergence zone where you're getting lots of energy, right? So my solution, our solution, YG's solution too, is to vibrationally isolate. This is a
you
YG
make these
rack.
stands, yeah.
Yeah.
YG fabricates these stands.
Yep.
And then you use on top of that some footers from Hi-Fi Stay.
Yes. And each rack insert actually is held off by either sorbothane or little ball bearings. You can choose between them. And you can have as many sorbothane pieces as you want, right? So the whole thing with sorbothane is you got to know what durometer it is, because it corresponds to how easy it is to compress, which relates to the weight of the device that you're trying to isolate.
Getting the right size.
Yeah. And you want it to compress. You want it to compress about halfway so that it has room to go up and down. But as you noticed, also the Hi-Fi Stay things. Our new distributor in the U.S. also distributes one of our favorite partner companies, Hi-Fi Stay. And you can see the wiggle on the Y stack and the server. And,
these are actually partners of you guys.
Yeah.
I wouldn't read too much into this being the only gear that works best for YG.
No.
You can basically, it's agnostic to gear. These are partners of theirs, even cabling with AudioQuest. But it's a very impressive gear setup, rack, and attention to detail. This is what I wanted to feature before even showing you music clips, because so much of what you hear is off in the room. And if you knee-jerk listen to these just at a show where this can't be done, or your home is much more advanced, you've got to factor that in to when you're auditioning. And maybe coming out here, especially when you're buying speakers of this price point, it's worth coming out here, I think, and getting to meet Duncan himself. I'm now inviting people on my behalf. But
that's what it's here for.
I think it's great that you provide this and spent the money on this room. It's really impressive, and we're going to have some music clips next, but also we're going to do a little tour. So appreciate the little walkthrough here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great track to showcase because it's instantly noticeable, the lack of distortion. And the attention to detail, lack of distortion both in the highs and the lows. A lot of people aren't sensitive to bass distortion as much as the highs, but when you hear less distortion in the bass, then you realize, oh, that's what it should sound like, right. And that's what you've accomplished with these speakers. And you could just almost tell the lack of loss in the signal from cabinet, driver, resonance is coloring it. It's very pristine, uncolored, low distortion, exactly what you would expect from super high fidelity, taking things to the nth extreme. So that's a great track. Yeah.
Do you want to do like and now for something completely different type of deal?
Yeah, might as well. Yeah.
Right. This is an artist called Passaro, and I believe it's Brazilian because there's some Portuguese in some of these things, but instantly you'll get a sense of the space. So that's all I'll say.
impressive. Okay, yeah.
Cool though, right?
Yeah, that's very cool. Speakers definitely disappear.
All right, this one we're going to show off a little bit more of that bass articulation. So the first one was really raw, unprocessed recording of a dry drum kit, right? Next one, there's a lot more sound design, as you could tell.
Okay.
This one is uber sound design. Ever heard of a young keyboardist named Anomaly?
No, I don't think so.
Canada. He's
Oh, really?
he's amazing, and he was one of the early guys to, at his concerts, he's front and center stage, and he plays a keyboard that's angled down so the
interesting.
audience can watch him.
Oh, wow.
So he just jams out like this. All right, so this was a little EP that he did with Chromeo. So Anomaly's kind of style is a little different, but just listen to this. This is crazy.
Hit me up when the moon's right. In the moonlight, we can walk, we can talk. I don't wanna fuss, I don't fight. But it's been 10 years, we should catch up. And hit me up when you feel safe. You pick the place, we can walk, we can talk. If it ain't a rush, it ain't fake. I just hope I'm getting through to you. I feel some type of guilt. It happens all the time. I'm the same, I feel it too. It happens often. Public spaces, and we won't cross that line, 'cause we know what not to do the moment we're together. There's nothing wrong if we can bend the rules, bend the rules. There's nothing wrong if we can bend the rules to suit each other. There's nothing wrong if we can bend the rules, it's what we choose. There's nothing wrong if we can bend the rules to suit each other. Hit me up when the time's right. In the twilight, we can walk, we can talk. I guess we've both been through it, but it's been 10 years. I wanna know how we do it. Call me up if you can't sleep. Don't wanna read, we can pillow talk. We can be friends and not creep. I just hope I'm getting through to you. I feel some type of guilt. It happens all the time. I'm the same, I feel it too. It happens often. Face to face in the public space, and we won't cross that line, 'cause we know what not to do the moment we're together. There's nothing wrong if we can bend the rules, bend the rules. There's nothing wrong if we can bend the rules to suit each other. There's nothing wrong if we can bend the rules, it's what we choose. There's nothing wrong if we can bend the rules to suit each other.
It's very reminiscent of doing bass warble tones. It's
Right.
very good test, huh?
That's right.
It's funny you mentioned a keyboardist that where you could see him play. It immediately brought me back to my high school days. I went to go see a band called The Producers, and they got a guy that wore a keyboard around his neck and played it like that.
Oh.
Yeah, he's just like a guitar, but he was just playing it like this.
Yeah.
And he was a major part of the 80s song that She's Sheila was a big song back then. And I went to go see him at a concert that was on a river ship boat in New Orleans, which was actually a fun place to go see a concert. And I was front row because I loved the song, I loved the band. But he would play with such like a guitarist,
Yeah.
spinning around, doing all this. And he hit me right in the head with the damn thing. Luckily, I guess I was so into the music, I didn't even feel it till the next day. But he rubbed my head, and it was like, semi-apologetic because he couldn't stop the song. But it reminded me of just getting hit in the head with a keyboardist that was playing like that. So my blast from the past story.
What do you think? One more?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a new one. I don't know a lot about these artists. A lot of times I try to kind of learn a little bit of the connections. Like, who does this know? Who does he work with? But I've seen this name, Corey Dick, before. He's a drummer.
Okay.
And so there's a new album. I just have this thing where on Fridays I got to go through the jazz releases,
Okay.
of Qobuz, and I don't know. I'm just like any audiophile. I have real strong takes about what type of jazz I like, and there's a lot out there.
Oh yeah,
So
tons.
when I hear something really being set up really well, and then this horn player comes in that sounds like he's in a different band playing a different piece of music, this kind of wrecks my mood. I kind of shy away from that, right?
Okay.
So I'm always looking for jazz that's either a unique blend of stuff or kind of ensemble like that. And again, that's my taste. Everybody's different, but I came across this, which is a really interesting production of some Irish tunes. So it's a couple Irish guys, but there's modern like synthetic production mixed in here. Okay. So without further ado, this one's called Robbie Tampson's, what is it? Called Robbie.
Okay.
By Corey Dick and Norman Wilmore on Twa Double Doubles, brand new album.
Yeah.
Just like lyrical kind of horn jazz.
No, that's an impressive track. So yeah, these are the ones that you could play in Tampa when y'all have their mega room.
We will.
For sure. That's very impressive. Well, thanks again for these cool tracks. I'm sure some of these are definitely going to be added by people listening, and that they're not the stereotypical ones everybody's used to. So, but they're very impressive and definitely worthy of reference. So again,
I try to put mostly new music in my playlists at shows.
That's cool.
Number one, because in this capability, in this how we're allowed to stream all music, that's being made right now. It's just, we're so lucky, but we also have this characteristic of forgetting about such great new artists.
Right.
Like I like to say sometimes I forget more new music now than I ever used to know before the streaming services, right? But this process of exposure where you just never would have heard stuff like this because it's not carried at your local CD store or whatever.
Yeah.
Man, well, we got to do it. So.
It's a great time to love music because, yeah, you can get exposed to almost everything without having to cherry pick albums and buy it and take your chances. Yeah, so great job finding some cool tracks. And guys, I'll release a separate video we're going to film about these speakers because these are special. They're quasi-flagship. There's a debate of which the real flagship is, but I'm going to have a separate video with Duncan on this speaker alone. Definitely one you need to check out. And you're going to be at the Tampa show too, right?
Absolutely. We'll be in Brandon too and a couple other rooms. But
okay.
I'll be, you can find me there and my new tracks there.
All right. So check him out. I'll be there as well. So again, thanks again. I wanted to introduce you guys to Duncan, not just and showcase YG, which of course, eye candy wise, it's about second to none. But Duncan, I think one of my tours, things I like to do is get you guys a little bit insight to the people behind the brand. And Duncan has definitely got some background that I don't think a lot of people know. So I know it's tough to talk about yourself, but I want to know a little bit more of your background and share some of that you were just sharing with me at lunch. Because, yeah, this is a guy that has a ton of experience, everything from mastering to even your father conducting orchestras. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, just a brief background introducing yourself.
Yeah, I think I'm your typical really dedicated audiophile for many years. I share the same story that I've heard a lot from people. My grandfather got me into the audiophile hobby. He built his own tube amps. He made Dynaco amps. He made Heathkit speakers and made some Williamson amps from just banging sheet metal out and ordering the parts, in the 40s. And so getting me into this when I was young, maybe 9 or something, I gravitated, the internet was new. I gravitated toward Steve Deckert of Deckware, who's one of those guys who's been doing it for a long time, has a website where he's written so many things about his take on audio and pitfalls and things he's discovered and processes that he follows. And man, for my 13-year-old self, I was just eating that stuff up. Maybe it was like his attitude and his voice about, just having fun with it and it being about enjoyment. I really kind of got started in the right way. Also, Steve offers a lot of DIY stuff on his website. So I think it was telling you 11 or 12, I was making a big subwoofer from blueprints that I wasn't even old enough to use the right saws, and it didn't fit together perfectly, but it really was great, And since then, I've made open baffle speakers. I've made replicas of the old Altec Lansing theater stuff. I've done tapped horns of all shapes and sizes. And I currently do my mastering at home on little speakers that I've made myself. So I'm like Jason in that way where I appreciate, of course, I'd love to have YGs at home. I'll get there at some point, but there's a singular sort of thrill that you get out of teasing your own satisfaction, out of musical satisfaction, out of just what was plywood and some caps and coils and stuff. So I took that path. Musically, my father's a maestro guy. He's got a doctorate in choral conducting. I was singing in his choirs when I was 10. I was on stage at Carnegie Hall singing with a very high voice with a giant choir, and over the years I would run sound with him, go visit the first chair violinists to go over the bowings to make notations on the score, and kind of getting an understanding of that side of it. My dad also played many instruments, cello being one. So being in the company or in the presence of an acoustic instrument in a space that's reverberant, those are some of my earliest memories. I was telling a friend the other day, talking about the piano in our house. It was a Baldwin that my dad still has, but if you act up as a kid, you go to timeout, right? Where's timeout in our house? It's under the piano. And my dad's always playing. So I have this really intimate understanding of what piano music sounds like under the piano. And a recording engineer would tell you sound comes out of all different places on a piano, and it really kind of coalesces as this thing just rich in harmonics that's undeniably piano. But if you really want to break it down, it's complex as it gets. And that rings true when you're under it, because you can touch everything and feel the vibrations of this brass soundboard that's up through these holes, or, you know, what does the leg feel like at this moment. And so just some early memories of mine. I remember being at RMAF. I dragged my friend because I was, you know, into this stuff, and maybe 2008 or 10 or something. And I'm sitting there and I'm saying, I said out loud to him, I wonder how you get into this industry, because I want to do it. At the time, I was working for newspapers, which was not a great way to start a career, I think, at this day and age. It's just newspapers are struggling to, you know, be profitable. But one way or another, I got in touch with PS Audio, and I think I did a tour with Paul. I was writing a column and writing about audio, and I wanted to interview Paul. And in the middle of that tour, he offered me a job because he just saw my passion for it, kind of got a sense of my understanding a little bit, and said, this guy needs to be in this industry. So I'm thankful to him to be there. But a few years there, a few years at the music room, which you visited, and there'll, I'm sure, be some videos coming out of there.
You were doing repairs for them. You were actually in the technical side, right?
I was testing, right?
Okay,
so
testing.
Yeah, maybe 10 products a day for 4 years, 4.5 years.
Wow.
Almost 10,000 products.
Wow.
And they were cool. They knew that I was the audiophile guy. So if somebody had a box of caps that you can't really list that stuff, who knows how good they are, they just give me those things. So as a DIYer, that's,
Yeah,
you know, incredible,
right.
Coming home with some of this stuff. But also all the tweaks, I could take each tweak home and really kind of like put it through its paces, because I just borrow it for a day, bring it back. So all the pigtails, all the black boxes, all of the Schumann resonators, I've heard them all. Touching, you know, big Duntech Sovereign PCL
Wow,
2001
yeah.
speakers, those are incredible,
Coffins,
right?
yeah, but yeah.
Yeah. And I've tested those, second generation B&W Nautilus, you know, fire it up, find 4 amps. We were a Mod-Right dealer at the time. Let's get 4 Mod-Right stereos and do it. So then I got into a little bit of marketing at the music room, wrote a lot of blog posts about this thing is great. I remember being at my desk with a pair of speakers that I had made as my testing speakers, just wigging out about how good this VAC, this VAC Renaissance 3030 amp sounded on my speakers. Now I've heard it on other stuff, and there was some magical combination with mine. So I had to write about it. So I'm writing, you know, the stuff. So yeah, I mean, just understanding that little thread of the bigger picture of synergy, and start to learn about loads and stuff. Between working for Paul and working at the music room, I was drinking out of a fire hose in terms of audiophile information. And I almost sort of by chance was suggested that I should come by, because YG was going through this complete evolution of the brand. You know, taking what was great about the past, the innovations of the past, and seeing how they can prove it without changing it, doing the best, taking the best things and fixing the problems. And it was my first audition that I just instantly, my ears told me everything I needed to know, that later finding out about the story of Dr. Matthew Webster and the team here and whatever, everything that we're trying to do reinforced. But at the time, just hearing those first notes out of the new YG stuff, I was hooked. So I've been here for 2 years. I've been out at all the shows last year, even driving a truck to some of them and doing all the legwork. But
you're the one responsible for me seeing last year. I said it was the year of YG.
Yes,
it was because of you getting out to those shows, and I don't think people realized the undertaking to bring that many of these heavy speakers and ship them just alone for just a few days. So kudos to you for taking the lead there and taking YG in this direction that I think is really paying off. We're going to showcase in the tour much more than just that. There's a lot to be impressed with this brand. So yeah, but I did want to get your background. We'll go ahead, and also we're going to do music clips here. I'll do that probably in a separate video, and we're going to walk through this room, which is extremely impressive for a listening room. But I did want to get your basic background, so I appreciate that, and we'll go ahead and start the tour.
Great.